All right. So now we're recording. Okay. And we do that so you guys can go back and look at this later on and review and this kind of thing. And um, we never know if something we talk about is going to trigger somebody or something like that. So need to take you need to take responsibility for yourselves. Neither Sherry nor I nor anybody who appears here, can be liable for anything that happens like that. So take your own responsibility. If you do get triggered, just come out of the webinar, go back to it if you choose, stop and start as you wish, and so on. And with that in mind, Sherry, do you have an orientation this morning or today?
I do.
Well, can we hear it?
Sure. Hi, everyone. If you will, let's find that comfortable position. Relax, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and feel yourself just beginning to settle down. We now look within to join with the unseen therapist, our infinite healer, source of all wisdom, at that deep level of love. To do this, we simply recall a loving moment in our own life for about a moment. We now shift our attention to the present moment. As like-minded travelers on this journey of awakening, we find comfort in knowing that we have been brought together in this moment for the greater good, both for ourselves and everyone else. There is nothing more important we need to do, nowhere else we need to be. It is our desire to remember who we truly are, to be more of who we were created to be. Each of us is on a unique path to higher awareness, and we want to remember that we have eternal access to one who knows the way. Unseen therapist, you are our guide and teacher. You are the gateway to our infinite wisdom. We want to hone our ability to hear your voice and to distinguish your voice from any other. To do this, we go into that quiet, peaceful place where your voice may be heard. We now feel the strength of your presence within us and remain in this magnificent silence for a moment or two. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Just so you guys know, yesterday, Sherry and I had a conversation. I had to call her because here in Northern California, we had predicted a really big time storm. And it is, this morning, or, it's morning for me. And I look out my window and indeed it is raining, but it's not quite the storm that was predicted. Nonetheless, the power went out a little, briefly last night. And what that means is it's possible that my internet, while we're doing all this, will go poof me with it. So if I do, at least I hope this is how we've set up Zoom correctly. Sherry, being the co-host, will be active, but she'll just take over if in fact I am removed by the cyber powers that be. All right. Now, few people I would like to have raise your hand if you would, because I expect we'll be calling on you. That would be Nami. We're going to spend a little time with Nami. Gabrielle Rutan, she wanted to make an announcement here. And anyone else who has any kind of questions, topics, whatever. This is, we got a couple things to cover up front, but most of this is going to be dedicated to your questions and so on. That's the main purpose here today. So as you have the questions, please raise the hand. I mentioned in my newsletter, in the letter I sent yesterday, that we were going to start off with some wisdom and some things from Nami. And yes, we're going to do that, but I'm going to do one thing first. I had a letter this morning that I just want to cover with you. The person writing to me, well, she did say I could use her message, etc. But anyway, I'm not going to use her name because she didn't give me express permission for it. But she's here, I know, and if she wants to raise her hand and ask questions, she may. She said, "Hi, Gary. In regular EFT, which I presume means tapping EFT, I learned to do EFT for others by saying their name and using the setup phrase for what their need was. Can optimal EFT be used to heal or help or send positive energy to others? If so, how is it done? Thank you." Okay. Well, yes. Yeah. In the tapping realm, we have the way you mentioned, and we have borrowing benefits. And all that occurs and is possible because we are connected, because we are one. That's why I could do something here and somebody several thousand miles away can get a benefit. All right. But what I want to do, when we're using unseen therapists, we go beyond the mechanical tapping. We are directly connected on purpose to the ultimate source, being within ourselves, but unseen therapists. So I'm going to try something here to show you that. Hold on a moment. Show you something. Share screen. Let me see. Sherry, do you see my share screen there?
Yes, I do.
All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to by the way, I'm presuming with this that you're watching this on a computer. If you're watching this on a smartphone, I'm not sure how this unfolds, but you can at least listen in and get it anyway, get the essence of it. So over here in the left-hand menu, you see the full course, of course, and that is our 30 advanced lessons in our self-help session. So let me click on 30 advanced lessons. And I'm going to go down here to number 24. One person performs the process surrogately, and that's where the question is coming from. How do you do this surrogately? Surrogately for another. So anyway, here's your instructions. Here's a whole lot about it, how it works, etc. Here's an actual video that I did with Bobby, and she had a particular issue, and I worked on it with her surrogately. Shows you how to do that. Okay. Now, another lesson here is lesson number 26, where one person provides surrogate benefits for an entire group of people. So let me click on that. And there we have instructions on how to do it and so on. So this will help you. And I have a video here. I remember this video. I worked, there was like 80 people in a room, and I asked them all to pick out a physical issue. I didn't even know what the issue was. And something like 80% of the people had a noticeable result. But how we do that and how it's done and the connection involved and all that is described here. So anyway, I hope that helps. Let me just stop the share here. Okay. Now, yes. All right. So let me talk for a moment. We're going to spend a little time on the subject that I mentioned in the newsletter and so on, about the idea of wisdom. Thought we would take that apart. As I see it, there are two levels, forms of wisdom. Okay? One of those is the levels that we are aware of in everyday human experience. And the other is the unseen therapist wisdom. So just to expand, I'll talk a little bit about our human experience, and then Sherry and Nami and anybody else who wants to participate to share their experiences as well. But anyway, the levels we seem to think we have, or that we call wisdom, I should say, in the human experience, are things like, well, it's a generalized type thing, but we tend to think elders, older people who have more experience in the world, etc. Generally speaking, they tend to have more wisdom. In some cultures, the older you are, the wiser you are anyway. Okay, not necessarily true in America, but generally speaking, more life experience gives you the label of a bit more wiser. Okay? A teacher, typically speaking, is considered more wiser than the student, at least on the particular topics being taught, again, within the human experience. And also those who have creative ideas, new ideas, they are considered, generally speaking, wiser. Does that make them wiser? Well, not necessarily, but that's generally how many of the cultures see wisdom. All right. Now, Unseen Therapists provides for us another level of wisdom, which tends to be outside the human experience. And with that in mind, I'm gonna call on Nami for a second, because she has this little story she's going to tell us, and she can kick us off with that. I just asked to unmute you. Are you there, Nami?
Hi, Gary.
Hi,
Gary.
Nami. Hi, Nami. Nami Osakabi. Okay, you and I were talking in a little group meeting the other day. And tell this story, if you were. There was a young child that was in distress. Tell the story.
So I was at the park with my 3 boys, and there was a boy about maybe 10 or 11 years old. And I knew he carried around with him this push pop-it, like bubble sensory, like fidget toy. I think it helps to relieve stress. So I know that he just presented a little bit differently than his brother and his peers. But his friends were there playing tag, and then one of his friends tagged him as it, and he just burst into tears, fell to the ground, and was just screaming like, "I don't want to be it!" And everyone was staring.
What? I don't want to be what?
I don't want to be it.
Oh, it. Oh, it's a tag game.
Yes, the tag game.
Okay.
And everyone was staring, and his mother came from across the street and was trying to comfort him and whispering to him, but he continued to like wail. And my son asked me, he said, "Mama, why is he crying?" And I said, sometimes you don't want to be it. And sometimes you have big feelings about it. And I said, why don't we send him some love? And it was at that moment, I just closed my eyes. And saying that to my son made me send the unseen therapist to him. And in my mind's eye, I just closed my eyes, but I saw her just like sitting beside him and rubbing his back and just saying, "I know you don't want to be it. It's okay. I love you. You are loved. I love you. You are loved." And then he stands up, runs over to his brother and says, "You're it," and runs laughing onto a play structure. And everyone is stunned for a moment. And I look at his mother, and his mother looks surprised as well. So I can't imagine that's like the typical thing that happens, where he's suddenly laughing after being so upset. And in that moment, I thought, oh, is it that easy? I could send the unseen therapist.
Well, I didn't quite. Isn't that what?
Is it that easy? Like, I could actually just send her to people in distress. I could send her to people at the grocery store, send her off to people in cars, just send her off. Because previously with surrogate work or like I always try to imagine I'm the person, and I just make such a big deal about it, like how I have to help them, or I really want to help them. I want them to feel better. I want them to feel the love. Like I think there was a bit of ego or myself in the way. But in this circumstance, just telling my son, let's just send him love. I imagine just sending the unseen therapist off to him. And it was so simple. And the shift that occurred was so drastic that everyone was stunned for a moment at the park. And then they continued on to play.
Let me ask you this. Thank you. That's a great story. No, but let me ask you something. The way you were talking about that, at least the latter part of what you were saying, had to do with, I'm not sure you used this word, but you didn't have your ego in the way. You didn't have like you were just sending it out of pure love.
Yes.
Oftentimes when we try to do these things, our ego will get in the way. For example, I'm just making this up just to make this point. But a possibility would, but here's this kid screaming and he's interrupting anybody, including my personal peace. Okay. So let me send him a little love, and why don't you be quiet? Unseen therapist, go take care of that. Okay. Now I've exaggerated. Yes. But when we have our own agenda, our own ego agenda involved, we may still get some results. But what I'm pointing out is when we have our own ego agenda involved, I say it differently. This is better done when we do it in a purer sense. It is for them and for them only, not for some agenda or some benefit that I think maybe I'd like to get out of this. Comment on that. Would you, Anami?
I completely agree. I think in another circumstance, if my son was just wailing at the park, I think some embarrassment of like, what would the other parents think? Or, oh, he's making me uncomfortable. I hope I'm going to send him love to make him quiet so that I can get comfortable and I don't feel judged by the other parents. I think that may have very well happened. But in this case, I just genuinely wanted to send him love. I genuinely wanted to comfort him.
Sure. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about here, I have you on here and we have this topic because I don't think we're doing it enough. I don't think many of us, I can't speak for everybody, but many of us trust enough yet to just keep doing that every place we go, in the grocery store, or in the park with the children, or wherever it is, somebody might be in distress or might need some help or whatever the case may be. Just spend a moment and just, Okay. And one of the things that tends to be in the way of that, I just want to alert us to it, is we may do that, but our ego then wants to see some immediate results. So it says, well, did I do it right? Is Unseen Therapist really there? Okay. Is she having a sandwich today and not paying attention? This kind of thing. So it's not always going to just unfold right now, right this minute, just the way we think or would like to see. Now, it happened with you. All of a sudden, bingo, here it is. Maybe for some reason it needs to wait 10 minutes. Who knows? Okay. But after you do this enough, you will see enough examples of this. Where you begin to get a little more trust and more trust. And I think the more we do that, not only are we going to see some results out there and gain more trust with unseen therapists, but as we share love, in this case with the young boy in the park, when we share love, we are receiving love. Giving love and receiving love are the same, properly done. Okay. Not I'll love you if you love me, but love. Okay. If I just love you without any requirements that you love me back or something like that, I am receiving the love simply because I'm sharing it. I can't share it unless I have generated it. Okay. And here are examples of way to do this. Now I got some more examples, but Nami, do you have anything more to say on that?
I think the other thing that happened there was I did not expect him to stop crying. I truly didn't. I had no expectation of it. I just in that moment thought, oh, we should just send him love. Like that was the pure intent. But I think in other circumstances, you are absolutely right, where I would like my son to stop screaming, you know?
Of course.
So I have that wish or desire. But in this case, there was truly no expectation, which was why I think I was so surprised that he stopped, but then started laughing and wholeheartedly expressing joy. So I think you're absolutely right. But it did make me think, I want to practice just sending or sharing or gifting the unseen therapist, like wherever I go, you know, if I go to a doctor's appointment, like just to do it without any expectation and to do it without any hope of anything happening, right?
When you go to the doctor's appointment, you're sitting in the waiting room and there may be a handful of other people there. And it may be quite obvious somebody's in pain or somebody's got walking with a cane or something is going on. You could tell something's going on. Ideal place to send some love. You don't have to go up to them and say, is it okay with you if I send you a little love today and maybe that'll help your foot? Okay. I mean, you can if you want to. They may speak sharply to you. I don't know. But you can just do this. And you'll receive love as you do it, whether or not they stop limping. Okay. So anyway, anything more, Nami?
No, thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you, Nami. Very, very helpful. Now, I don't want to just stop with one example of this. I want to give you more examples to let you know how prolific this can be. And I would love to see more and more and more and more people do this more and more and more and more often. And then report to me, please. Okay. But when Nami was telling me that story in this little group we were talking within earlier this week, I related another story. This was something somebody else had told me some time ago. I don't know remember how many years ago. I don't remember who it was told me this. Okay, but it was a lady, and she was observing 4 or 5 horses out there in a pasture eating grass. They were all collected together eating grass and being horse buddies, I guess, if that's what you might want to call it. And she just sat there sort of, I guess she loved horses anyway, but she just sat there sort of in awe, in love with the horses, and just began sending them love. And within moments of her doing that, the horses stopped eating the grass, looked at her. They were about 50 yards, 50 meters away, something like that, and just walked over to her. It's as if they knew she was doing this. This is way beyond, by the way, coincidence. Okay, all 4 or 5 horses turn around at that moment and then start walking towards her. I don't remember what happened, whether she petted them or gave them an apple or fed them. I don't know what happened after that. I just remember, send you some love. And something really nice happens. Okay, now I know Sherry has some stories, but I'm going to tell another one first, and then Sherry and I can sort of trade, and we'll see what happens here. Where am I? The first one I'm going to share with you isn't something I've talked about before. I just want to emphasize it here. And I don't have precise examples and that kind of thing. But when I communicate, this is me personally, when I communicate best with unseen therapists is when I'm doing a session with somebody, unseen therapist session. Somehow or other, my awareness, my readiness, whatever, is right there. And I have learned over time that while I may have a conversation with a client where doing some reframing before we ever bring in unseen therapists. We're setting things up and so on. I have an idea where we might start this session. We might start it, but I never know where we're going to end. I never know what's going to happen as we start going, and all of a sudden, wisdom, this is all forms of wisdom, by the way, wisdom from unseen therapists is going to show its face. It's going to show up. It'll say, I'll be talking to the client, and all of a sudden the client will say something. And as I mentioned many times, oh, it's like it stands out. And I get the nudge, unseen therapist nudge. Go there, go there, go there. Okay. I will be in the middle of a session. I'll be creating some metaphor, which is kind of fun, and we're going places and having fun with the metaphor, and the metaphor will shift. I was using the metaphor the other day of a jail cell. This particular client had bought into the beliefs of a demanding parent. We see that with some frequency. Okay, that's limiting the client and so on. But I had them both in a jail cell, and the jail cell was open. Unseen therapist opened the door and said, "You can, leave anytime you want, but we have a few things to do maybe before you leave." And as we were doing that, we were talking about beliefs, and all of a sudden the idea just showed up. I have no idea where it came. Well, I do have an idea where it came from. Typically, obviously I don't have any idea, but I do know where it came from. Seemingly out of the blue, though, it comes to have something called belief bugs. Now, I had never even thought of belief bugs before. But here I had the demanding parent with belief bugs on them that came from outside their own background and so on, but all these beliefs that they were putting out to the child, my client. And then the belief bugs, some were inside, some were outside. This whole thing all started to develop. And I remember the client, really relating as this was unfolding to the belief bugs. Okay. Now that's wisdom that comes from someplace else. Okay. You can say, "Oh, well, Gary, that's just you being creative." I don't think so. It happens too often. I never know where we're going to go. And I just rely on unseen therapists to give me whatever metaphors show up. Okay. That's wisdom coming from another place, wisdom coming from the unseen therapist. And the more you trust that, the more you allow that, the more you're communicating in a relaxed way with unseen therapists, not going, "I got to do this right," or "She's not listening. I got to do this right," or "She won't give me the right answer," or "I got to do this right," or "I won't be," something. No, you end up trusting and relaxing. Sherry, I've been doing all the talking. Do I presume you have a wisdom story or two?
You presume correctly because you have so much wisdom, Gary, that your presumptions are always right there on the money.
Yeah, that plus we planned it. So go ahead.
Well, it's so funny, the stories you told. I think I have one very similar to each one of them. It was a recent session, and I heard a thought. We were working on whatever we were working on, and all of a sudden I get this thought, not even remotely close to what we're working on. And I thought, okay, I know how this works, at least for me. When I hear unseen therapist, I have to say what it is that's there to be said. If not, I kind of have a log jam. Nothing else really is able to slide on in. So I said to the client, "I am so sorry, but I have this thought and it doesn't relate to anything that we're talking about, but I have to get it said and then we can move on. So if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'm just going to say this thing and then we'll move on to what's more important." And so I said whatever was on my mind. And I look at the look on her face. I said, does that mean something to you? And she said, well, yes. Before this session, I was in prayer and I was praying for an answer to a specific question, which you just answered.
Well, there's some wisdom. Now, but the point is, these things happen. We will tend to think they're coincidence. But if we keep after them and keep looking at them, we get too many. We get too many
Well,
to be called
yeah.
coincidence.
Well, and here's my story. If you don't mind, I'll take up more time.
Please, please.
Here's my story, and often I'm with you. I think, oh, I sent the love out there. It's just coincidence that they quieted down. Well, this one, no, it's like Unseen Therapist says, I want to kind of show you this stuff isn't coincidental. So a similar thing that happened to Nami, I'm in a restaurant with a friend. Very nice restaurant. There could have been maybe one other table of people, maybe two other tables. And at the one table, a few tables down, there's a family, and there's maybe a 3 or 4 year old sitting at the table and making quite a fuss. And I was trying to ignore it as best I can. And the friend I was with said, you know what? This is really annoying. In fact, I'm having a hard time concentrating on our conversation. And she said, Sherry, you do strange things. I don't know what all you do, but can you do something about that noise at the other table? And I said, gosh, I don't know if I can or not, but I'll give it a shot. You know, I don't know. I'm not trying to control anything. I'll just send it out there and we'll see what happens. So I close my eyes, I do my thing, and all of a sudden, the child quiets down. And my friend says, that's amazing. I can't believe you did that. And I said, I don't even know if I did do that. It could have just been, and I don't really believe in coincidence, but I thought it could just be that she just quieted down at the same moment that I did what I did. That could very well be. And she said, well, okay, one heck of a coincidence in my book. And so we start talking, and all of a sudden we're aware that the family is now getting up from the table to leave. And I thought, geez, I just wanted her to quiet down. I wasn't really asking that she leave the restaurant. I thought I may have overdone it. And so the family walks by the table. And here's when I realized this isn't a coincidence. The little 3 or 4 year old walks by our table and she stops in front of me, not in front of my friend. She stops in front of me and looks at me and says, thank you.
Ah. Well, that has to be coincidence, Sherry.
She knew something happened. She knew it came from me, not my friend. And
Yeah.
She thanked me for it. I thought, you know, that's not just the mother said, okay, quiet down. And she did at the same moment I was doing something. I don't know what happened to her, but she knew that it was coming from me. And I thought, okay, there's a oneness. We are all connected, and we can say there's no such thing. It's not true, but there it was. I just offer that up.
Well, that's like the horses.
Well, and since you've said horses, if you'll indulge me another minute or two, I've got a dog story like the horse story.
Well, love dogs. Dog away.
Is that okay? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Years ago, my sister had a dog, a border collie named Chipper. And Chipper, as many dogs do, didn't care for lightning and thundering, was very nervous when there was all this noise outside. I happened to be in my sister's house when it was lightning and thundering, and Chipper was howling. He was so upset. And so I thought, well, I don't know. Let me see if I can do something here to calm this poor boy down. He's so afraid. And so I go in and I do my surrogate EFT thing, and all of a sudden he quiets down. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And nothing, I didn't say anything to him. He just got very quiet. He may have gone to sleep. A while later, maybe weeks later, I'm in the house again. It's thundering, it's lightning. The Chipper is no way around, so I don't even think, gee, wherever he is, I should do some surrogate EFT because I'm sure he's nervous and upset. I out of sight, out of mind. I didn't even think about it. All of a sudden, I see him walking down the stairs, and he walks over towards me, gets up on the couch where I'm at, puts his paws on me, and looks up at me like, whatever you did for me last time you were here with all the thundering and lightning, I want you to do again. How on earth would he have known that I was doing anything, that it came from me? It could have come from someone else in the house, but that's an indication to me of the oneness, and not just with people, with everything. This animal somehow knew. Whatever calmed him down last time, he identified it with me and came over to me.
Yeah. Yeah. What I would love to see is story after story after story, because we all have this ability. We all have it. That's one of the things we're learning here. We keep talking about trust with the unseen therapist, but the more you practice it, and your ego may not see immediate results, like we talked about, may not see immediate results over and over and over again. Okay. May not see that. But you do it enough, you're going to start seeing stuff that you will recognize. And chances are very good, even though those things you're not recognizing, something good is happening somewhere that is outside your ego's awareness. So, one of our members raised her hand. Pauline, let's bring Pauline in. Are you there, Pauline? You have to unmute yourself again. But we don't hear you, Pauline, and I'm clicking on a little button here there you go. There you are.
Yeah. Okay. Just thinking, because I think with energy, I work a lot with energy, and I've done a lot with Reiki, and I often find what you're talking about, Gary and Sherry, is very similar to Reiki, but I don't want to get into I think they all work with energy, but I do believe that children, especially, see our auras, especially when they're young. And I've had it on a few occasions, but I've been in a lift sometimes, and there's been a young child.
Wait. Lift is English for elevator, right?
Elevator. Yeah, closed in thing that goes up the side of the building.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
And say it's happened a few times, and a young child will either be in their pushchair or standing by the side of their mother or father, and they will be looking just past me and smiling. And the work I've done with energy, it is believed, because we don't know, that children, where they've got no expectations whatsoever, and they haven't formed their ego probably at that age, they see an awful lot. And I've had my own experiences with spirit, and I don't know whether I've had lots of experience with spirit, but I don't know whether it's different to the unseen therapist. But I can share things on spirit level. But with the horses, I've had horses come up to me, and I think animals, whether it's horses, dogs, cats, whatever it is, they will come to you if you're in pure peace but they will also come to you if you're feeling low, because that's why they're using horses now in equine therapy, because they pick up on people's energy. So I just wanted to share that, really, because that's always been my background, I suppose.
Oh, good,
So,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
These are all forms, and thank you. Yet more examples, but these are all forms of wisdom that we're trying to emphasize. That's pay attention to it, okay? Because we want to use more and more of it and get more and more trust in it. Anything more, Pauline?
Well, I can share an experience with you with spirit. I have had lots, mainly in Australia, but I had a car accident many years ago, and this is sort of going with Reiki, but I had a friend and we used to swap Reiki. Anyway, after this particular Reiki thing, when actually there was somebody present within the room, which was wonderful. After that experience, for it was about a whole week, every day when I lay down on my futon in the massage room, I would just be laying to relax and be at peace and maybe do sort of a relaxation. My body would be manipulated. It was it was like somebody would hold my head and pull it. I've had my hips shifted. And so I certainly believe in whatever is up there with the unseen therapist.
Thank you for that, Pauline. I want to share that triggers.
But I might like to ask you, Gary, or Sherry, or somebody, because is there a difference between the unseen therapist and spirit? Because in my experience, or my experiences, the people obviously are have died, but I have felt things on my arm, like to get my attention. Wow. And I just wondered if someone can explain spirit and unseen therapist.
Well, unseen therapist is spirit. Unseen therapist is also God. Unseen therapist is also Jesus, Buddha, Allah, whatever. It's a non-denominational name for the loving essence of the spiritual dimension, whatever you choose to call it. That's why I do it. So yes, you could use the term spirit if you wish, and unseen therapist interchangeably, because both of them are representatives, if you will, of the ultimate love of the spiritual dimension. Now, I want to launch off of something that you were talking about the unseen therapist or spirit, manipulating you. I've seen that before. I've got some videos, where I'm doing this with people and we're being quiet, unseen therapist doing something. And I remember one lady in particular, she was doing this, and I asked her about that, and she wasn't aware of it until I made her aware of it. And she just kept doing it. And I said, well, can you stop it if you want to? Yeah, I can, but I don't want to. It's like somebody is moving it for me. I've seen things like the head and the neck and the moving on the shoulders. I've seen that before. The most dramatic one I've ever seen is one that, and there's videos of this, but the practitioner, the client does not want it shown, but I can talk about it. It was the patient was a man, maybe 40 years old, weighed about 240 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilos. It's like 120 kilos or something like that. Okay. 130 kilos. Sorry. But anyway, it was a good sized man. And he was lying on a massage table. The therapist was one of our members. And this was some years ago, and was bringing in unseen therapists. And this guy was lying on this, he had some physical pain in his body. He was lying on this massage table on his back. And she, for some reason, turned on the camera, the movie camera. And she showed me, she sent me the film for about 10 minutes. This guy is being turned over. This 240-pound man is being turned over this way, turned over that way. He wasn't doing it himself. And he was amazed by it, as was I watching it, okay? Because nobody could see any physical thing of somebody being turned over. Now, do we see that with regularity, in our regular travels here with unseen therapists? No, I haven't seen it since. But there it is, big time. You don't unsee that. Okay. Anyway, okay. Anything more you want to mention, Pauline, before we move on?
No, just before it happened, though, because I think this was a sign that someone is getting in touch with you. For me, was two eyes came towards me. They weren't like, they were just like the shape of an eye, and two of them just whipped towards me. And then all this manipulation went on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah. So
don't be surprised if it happens. Don't be spooked if it happens either. Understand that's part of the possibilities here. Okay. All right. Okay. Sherry, do you have any more stories?
Yeah, actually I do. This was years ago. Sitting with a friend at a table, we were doing a puzzle, and all of a sudden I said 7:30, and he said, "What? Why'd you say that?" And I said, "Oh, that's the answer to your question." He said, "I didn't ask you a question." I said, "Were you getting ready to ask me a question?" He said, "Yes." I said, "What were you getting ready to ask me?" He said, "I was going to ask you what time we need to be ready tonight to go to dinner." And I said, 7:30. And he said, "Okay, she's answering questions before they even get asked." And I said, "We're all one, for crying out loud. We have access to the same mind.
And there is no time.
And there's no time. I just picked up on it before you got it verbalized, but we're all one."
Yes. Fabulous. Fabulous. I'm going to tell two more quick stories. Then I'm going to bring on Gabrielle because she has an announcement to make. And I don't see anybody else's hand raised, but the rest of this time is going to be for whatever questions you guys have, if any. Okay. You don't have to have them, but that's what we're going to be here for. Anyway, we were talking, one of our members, Karen, talked about using unseen therapists for her own issues and successfully so. One thing she never did, though, was use them in behalf of her husband. Right? Now, her husband had a very severe foot problem for over 40 years. Some of you may remember this from a past webinar. Okay, like the cushioning underneath the foot was gone. And so walking across barefoot, for example, across a tile floor, painful, etc., without ever addressing it, his feet got better. Now that's wisdom, okay? um, something was going on there. Unseen therapist found to do that. There wasn't any resistance apparently, and so on. But that's big time wisdom. Another one would be, and this fellow is on our. I saw him on our listed on our webinar today. It's Andre. Andre and I worked on a lot of things. It's part of our videos you've seen recently from our newsletter and so on agoraphobia, anxiety, and a bunch of related issues like that. But one thing he never even mentioned to me was an OCD problem. That problem, while we were working on seemingly other things, vanished. Anyway, if we're paying attention, it goes on and on. We tend not to pay attention because it's sort of outside of our belief areas, but gradually we want to bring it inside your belief areas. So it becomes more routine, more commonplace. Big message here today. Big message in this. Yeah, big message. All right. Now let me call on Gabrielle. Gabrielle, where are you? There you go. Are you there?
I am, Gary. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Gabrielle. For those who don't know Gabrielle, she's the director of our Gary Craig Official EFT Training Center in the Dutch language. Are you in Holland or Sweden right now?
I'm in Sweden.
You're in Sweden. She's also an MD. She's featured in my book, The Unseen Therapist, and doesn't use medical stuff for people, uses only EFT. That's still correct, Gabrielle?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Anyway, Sherry just finished, I understand, a rather successful boot camp. And you're going to be doing a follow-up boot camp on, do I have the phrase right? Chronic physical issues. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, so do your announcement, do your commercial. Let's talk about it. What is it? How much does it cost? When does it
Yes.
happen? All that stuff. Okay.
All right. So I'm happy to announce that I finally planned my dates. I waited for Sherry's bootcamp to finish. This is a bootcamp on chronic physical issues, and we've already done one. And so this is the second one this year that we'll do. It's for everybody who have solid knowledge of the optimal EFT course. I've studied the lessons. I've looked at all the videos that Gary has put up there for your self-study, and also finished Sherry's bootcamp. And so this bootcamp is also six webinars in 6 weeks, 2-hour webinars, and then a personal session, a 1-hour session with me to really dive into your own personal physical stuff. Or if you work with others and you want to discuss that, that's fine too. What else? 2 hours. It's the same time as your webinars, but on Saturdays. And it will start, I have the dates here. It will start, let me just quickly look, on November 6th. So I'll just put them in the chat box so you can look at the dates.
And put your email in there too, so they can contact you.
That's a very good idea. Did not put my email in there. I will put my email in there. Am I still stay muted?
No, you're all right. I hear you.
No, I have this message that says stay muted. Isn't that interesting?
Sherry, can you hear Gabrielle?
Yes, I can.
All right,
Okay.
cool. All right. So here's the thing. Gary just showed you the member content of the website, and in the menu under support, there's the two bootcamps, the one that Sherry gives and the one that I give. So it's always good to see what others thought of this bootcamp, my bootcamp in this case. And so there's some testimonials there if you're interested.
Hold on 1 second if I can. I think just to make this come to life that I can go back there and show that. So let me give it a
Right.
try. Let's see what happens. Okay. Share. Do you see that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's go back up here. That here, this is what your EFT boot camps right there.
right there.
And then what for chronic physical issues would be what the first one is what Sherry does, communicating with an unseen therapist. And that's a prerequisite for yours, chronic physical issues. So click on there. And then there's your photo, and here's testimonials about it and what it's about and so on. Yes?
Yes, very good.
All right.
And so here's the thing that what I like to do in this bootcamp is look at your physical symptoms. Why? Because physical symptoms are really interesting pointers to what are the underlying conflicts or emotional problems that you have. And there's certain laws that apply because certain types of physical symptoms point to certain types of emotional problems. And it's good fun to understand that a little better. Obviously, unseen therapist doesn't need that in her wisdom, but we do. So the reason I enjoy teaching these bootcamps is to allow you to be able to work around your ego and whatever your ego is trying to do to hold on to physical symptoms, because then you're in pain and then you have a problem and it's occupying you. And so it's good fun to play around with that and discover that in actual fact, if you look at your physical symptoms, you can work back from them and understand what the underlying emotional issues are very quickly, because this is what we all do. We are EFTers, so we'll always be looking, if you do it correctly, you'll be looking at underlying issues. But these are such nice pointers that I want to share that with you. And so all in all, it's a 6-week program and we alternate. So Sherry's bootcamp and mine, we alternate so that you have a chance to do both.
Oh, wait a minute. Just let's talk about alternate. You're not alternating weeks.
No.
Sherry's goes on for a while from beginning to end, and then yours goes on for a while from beginning to end. And then maybe
Yes.
Sherry will do another, and then you will do another.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just clarifying, that's all.
No, indeed. Otherwise, that would get really messy. So my bootcamp is 6 consecutive webinars and a personal consultation.
And the fee?
And the fee is $500, including the personal session. So it's 6 webinars, 2-hour webinars, same time as your webinar. So 10 a.m. Pacific time it starts, and then for 2 hours.
Okay. All right, good. Anything else you want to mention about that?
No, I'll just add my email so that people can email me if they want to.
I will tell you, as a result of your last one, and Sherry's as well, I get people big time accolades for both you guys. So I'm going, thank you. Okay. So those who really want to move on and get higher and higher on this, you got 2 real experts here in their specialties and their fields to help you.
So I would just like, yes, please, if I could just react to, because Kristen just said sending out love, or sending you unseen therapist heals without knowing specific events. Indeed. And we don't always need to know exactly what's underlying, but this is why the bootcamp is for chronic physical issues. If you've had, and for me, anything that is long, lasts longer than 2 weeks, for me, that is chronic. But if you have chronic problems, physical problems, that sort of tends to tie in with very subconscious problems. And even if you ask unseen therapist for healing, if you don't understand what the underlying emotional issue is, your ego might be able to sort of play around that, because you can only, ask for healing and receive healing if everything is on the table and you're ready to let go. And so it's interesting to just, sort of take it apart and see what's underneath, so that you're more able to address it. And for me, it's mostly a way to make sure that your ego doesn't have anything to latch onto. and just to keep you in either pain or whatever symptom it is.
However, the ego is going to try.
Oh yeah.
That's a guarantee. Okay. But the more we know, yes, the more we know, the more ammunition we have, and the easier it is to giggle a bit at Unseen Therapist. I was going to call on Natalie. She had a question. Did you have more you wanted to say for now, Gabrielle?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, don't go away because Natalie may be asking you. I don't know. Hold on a minute. Natalie.
Yes. Hello. Hello, Gary.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi.
everybody. Yes, I actually did have a question. So I don't know if it's going to go towards what has been said before, or if it's more Gabrielle's realm. But my question is about surrogate work. Okay, and when people with severe issues, okay, so I've come across that. I've tried to do some. I know it worked in one of the cases a bit, to a very small extent. So I have my niece who is 16 years old, who's got thyroid cancer. She was operated a few weeks ago. I only found out at the last minute, and I know where it comes from, but she can't talk about it. And so all I can do to help is from afar. And so I did my best. And the only thing I managed there, I don't know, maybe it's not even me, but I know she had no pain after the operation, which is incredible. But so that's one question. The second question is, I have a friend, a very old friend from school, who suffered from a stroke. And he was saved at the last minute because he remained he was put in artificial coma for 6 months. And so all his abilities, he used to be a violinist, and he cannot speak. He can say a few words, but apart from that, he can hardly do anything. You can see that he's got that he can think, but that's about it. And I was wondering, so I've been trying to, only a couple of times, but I was wondering, is it possible when you have people, there are people out there, you would like to help, you would like to send, something to them, that these people, for one reason or another, cannot talk. In the case of my niece, she can't, because that's why she's got the cancer. In the case of my friend, he cannot physically talk. So, and he can't share things. He can't write them. He can't do anything. So when you have people like that, to what extent can we ask the Unseen Therapist to help?
Yeah. Let me respond first, but this is going to be one primarily, I think, if Gabrielle is willing to address differently than I'm going to say it. Okay. I've seen lots of things like this. I've seen good results. I've seen results that aren't apparently good results, at least to begin with. But as far as doing something surrogately, if the other person, for whatever their reasons may be, and I understand they're not able to verbally tell you these things, they can resist it. And if they don't want the healing, sometimes people literally, although they maybe not even be aware of themselves, literally want their ailments. They get comfort from it. They get attention because of it. There's lots of things that can go on where they would resist and want to keep it. The other thing that I see is injuries. Surgeries tend to be injuries to me. Okay. Strokes tend to be injuries to me. They may not be in the classical definition of that. But injuries tend to heal. And when they don't, there's usually, I've found this many, many times, usually some kind of emotional issue or issues, etc., that are keeping the healing from going on. Now, that's just a little input I want to give. Gabrielle has much more to say, I'm sure, than I do. So, Gabrielle.
Can I just add something? In the case of my friend, so he had that stroke about, now it was about 12, maybe 15 years ago. Okay. And he was actually, they thought he would never even be able, he can do a few things now, but he was supposed never to be able to do anything because it was really taken at the last minute. And so it's it's been that happened a long time ago. And we hadn't been in touch until very recent, a month and a half ago.
All right.
Just, so.
All right, good. Go ahead, Gabrielle. Oh, we don't hear you. You're unmuted.
Yeah. Somehow Zoom muted me again. So
Yeah.
big questions. I would need a little more time. This is why we have the bootcamp. However, there's a few things we can say about this. Please bear in mind that however long symptoms have lasted does not mean you can't still resolve them. And so even if the stroke has happened 15 years ago and there is a little progress and they were really negative about it and there's a little progress, you can do a few things. All kinds of things are possible. But for something as big as this one, you would not only need to look at underlying emotional issues, but also all the beliefs. Not only the beliefs of your family member, but also the people that are around him and take care of him. Because if you're in an environment where everybody believes this will never heal or this will never get any better, that might hinder the process. So that, in and of itself, that would be a massive challenge because he also is not able to communicate. So you would need to work the way you would work with a little babe that can also not communicate with you. You just have to work with unseen therapists, let her do the work, and see what happens. So in my world, nothing is impossible. However, we are not wise. We're just us, and we have our little ego to deal with, and we cannot oversee anything. Past, present, future, everybody who is involved. So, from the outside, this might look like a really, horrible path that this man has to go through, but we don't know. We don't know why he's going through this. So we should never step into a process like this with the wish or the desire to heal or to, get things better, because we need to leave this up to higher powers, unseen therapists. If you take the bootcamp, we'll be looking at a different paradigm of looking at physical symptoms and diseases, because thyroid cancer, for example, is healing phase of a self-worth issue where you feel you're really not fast enough, and it's the healing phase after that. So
you're not what enough?
Not fast enough. You're too slow.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
And that needs a little work to see exactly what the problem is, but it's pretty benign, and most people will recover even though they went through either surgery or chemo or whatever else. So it's interesting to look behind the symptoms or disease or cancer in this case, and see what the emotional issues are and resolve the issues. And I'll be talking about this in more in depth in the boot camp, because there's a whole thing we need to explain why I point out that, like, thyroid cancer is a symptom that occurs in a healing phase after stress. And that you need some time to play around with that and to get used to the idea because you need to turn it upside down. It's what regular medicine usually sort of identifies as the problem or the disease is quite often, not everything, but quite often is tied in with the healing phase after stress. And this is why I'm so, keen on doing EFT, because if you look at the underlying emotional issues, there is a lot you can resolve, and your body will respond because it's mind over matter. So if you resolve the underlying emotional issues, your body will heal itself.
Okay.
I'm not saying everything can be healed. That's, part of what we're going through and part of what your particular path in life is. But there's quite a few symptoms that are reversible, and a whole new ball game happens when you understand that the symptoms you have are not the problem, but part of the solution. Anyways, I'll talk a bit more about that when we do the bootcamp.
Another version of wisdom today, Gabrielle. Thank you. Thank you. Kathleen, I had something to say here. So are you there?
Yes.
Kathleen? Yeah.
Hi,
ahead.
thank you. I just, great, fascinating conversation today. I just had a logistical question about the boot camps. I'm assuming that you're recording them. For instance, I have not done Sherry's boot camp, so that's a prerequisite for Gabrielle's boot camp. Is it possible, and right now my plate is extremely full, it's just not great timing anyway. Are you going to be able to offer the boot camp recordings that you can purchase and go through, or is it just going to be that you're going to alternate doing these boot camps? Because in the near future, I'd like to. Anyway, just a thought.
I do record the boot camps, but they're for private review only, because people talk about very private things. And so the recordings are for the group that follows the boot camp. And I like to do the boot camps live. So we meet live. But if you for some reason miss one, that's not a problem, because you can still look at the recordings. But the recordings are private recordings for the people that are attending the boot camp. But I will, after consulting with Sherry, offer the boot camp again once or twice next year, so you can follow the live boot camp.
All right.
And I can add that I don't record mine. I consulted with Unseen Therapists. It is done live. It is meant for people to participate in live. And not only does it protect the privacy so that recordings aren't sent out to who knows where, but if you have a question, if something comes up, we're all there, I'm there, I can handle it live. If it's a recording and it's off into who knows where it might show up and someone's taking it and they have a question, we're not live to be able to handle that and answer that. So that was the direction I was given. And until I'm shown to go in a different direction, my boot camps are not recorded. You've got to be there and participate in them live.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Natalie, anything more you wanted to, or Kathleen first, anything more you wanted to ask, Kathleen? Okay. Natalie? You're muted.
Yes, just, as I wrote in the chat, I totally, I mean, I heard and understood what Gabrielle said, but if the person is not allowed to, unfortunately, to voice those emotions because they come from something really bad, like sexual abuse, can you still help that person?
To me, yes, but this develops another skill. And Gabrielle, she's going to probably have a different answer than I'm going to give you. Okay. But that's why we have our lesson number 10, where you can ask unseen therapist what's going on. Now, this gets more advanced. It gets, I should say, more advanced is a word, but it involves more trust than we're typically used to. Okay. But you can ask unseen therapists, what is going on? Why did this stroke? Why did this cancer occur? What is it that they need to deal with? They need to understand. And you're going to get some answers.
Yeah.
But it takes some skill to get there. Gabrielle, I'm sure you have a different answer.
Well, yes, I would need to understand a little more clearly, Natalie, why you say she isn't allowed to talk about the issue, because over the years, I mean, the 20 years that I've been working with people, I've worked with many, many people with PTSD and sexual abuse and all kinds of horrible stuff. Obviously, it needs, she needs to trust the person that works with her to discuss and process what happened.
But she can't speak. That's the point.
No, she can speak. She has never said anything. She has said things.
I'm sorry.
She has said things at times, but she has no. I mean, I've known for years, and I live far away. I've never been able. It's very complicated to put something into motion, especially in France, because they don't like that's kind of you have to put up with it, and so that's why I'm saying that now, as it is today, as of today, there's no one she is going to talk about it. No one she's going to talk to about it.
Well, that's to me, for just from what I've heard, that's a rapport issue. It's a trust on her part issue. I can remember many times I would deal with war veterans, and I wasn't in the war, I wasn't in combat, etc. And they would say to me, how can you help me? They're very skeptical. You weren't in the war. You can't understand. And they're right. They're right. That doesn't mean I can't help them, though. And what I will usually do is just say, you're right. However, and then I'll start pointing to some successes and so on and so on. And we get rapport. And once we have rapport, then they feel more trusting. And once they have a success of some kind, maybe there's something to this, So it may be a tiptoe approach, but I'm hearing it's her trust issue that needs to be overcome. No, I'm missing it. Okay.
No, I think, it's that time of life where it seems impossible to tell anyone about it. And the thing is, the people the closest, blood related people who some have been suspicious and the rest, they are far away, because the person who perpetrated the things deliberately, moved them out of, any kind of visibility.
Okay, those are details that may take longer to unfold here than we have. So
yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I just know, but my question was just, can I carry on trying to, because I know because I've tried, and I think there has been something, but to what extent, can I really help? That's it.
Okay. Well, what I would like to do is offer to you, I'd like to have you contact me sometime this coming week. I can get more details that way. And,
Okay.
and maybe I can learn. Chances I'm always learning. So this is to me, it's a learning experience. So I
Mhm.
need to know more about it and so on. So,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. I'll do
All
that.
right.
I'm sorry for taking so much time.
Oh, no, that's what we're here for, my dear. Okay. All right. I don't see anybody else's hands. So unless I see somebody else's hands, we're going to call it a day. Nobody else's hands. Okay. So we'll see you 2 weeks from today. In the meantime, if you guys would, I'll leave the chat box open for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. So please let me know how I can improve all this and give me your feedback and so on. So until then, another hug. Talk to you later.